far beyond the trees and the forest. Her leg, quick, as she... Once upon a time, in a happy and peaceful village, where Queen Ayeduni lived happily with the king and his subjects. Queen Ayeduni is loved by the villagers, except one old woman. For the old woman gave a terrifying prophecy when the king was about to marry Ayeduni. The old woman had said, "For the queen shall bring havoc to the village, as she will give birth to twins, and the elder shall serve the younger one, and the king and queen shall become his prisoners. Abomination! The head shall never be the tail." The king had rejected the prophecy immediately. Then the king secretly sent his soldiers to capture the old woman and threw her into the prison, for he feared the old woman's dark magic. When the son of the old woman heard of his mother's captivity, he went to the king and pleaded. But the king said to him, "I shall release your mother when my wife, the queen, gives birth, and I see it is not twins." So when the king learnt that the queen is pregnant, he took the queen to the great chief magician, for he sought to know the fate. "Tell me if this pregnancy shall bring forth twins and cause havoc in my kingdom," the king asked the great magician. But the magician feared, if he tells the king the truth, he shall be imprisoned. So he lied and said, "The queen shall bring forth a male child, and his name shall be Atua, which means I have come again. He shall be a powerful child and conquer many villages." Despite the assurance of the great magician, the queen was still restless, for she feels the heartbeat of two souls struggling in her womb. But she feared to tell the king, so she confided in an elderly woman who is the midwife to the royal home. "This is Atua's birthright, for the eldest son shall be named Atua. He shall conquer many villages and be a powerful child. Make sure you wear this bead for the first child," the queen ordered. The queen took in a deep breath and said with a sad face, "I shall send in 2 men. They shall pick the younger child and take him to the forest and kill him." With a heavy heart, the queen left the midwife's house. But just as the queen had schemed for the unborn children, so also is the great magician and cajoler. For cajoler seeks to use that opportunity to feed on his greed. Cajoler, a very greedy man who sought to have the wealth and riches of the king, connived with the great magician. "I need your help in stealing one of the twins." The great magician had said this to protect himself because he had deceived the queen and the king. As fate will have it, cajoler loved the idea. "Why don't we steal the younger child? Since the prophecy said he will be the one to rule, we can raise him to become toxic and a ruthless person who would bring destruction to the king, and in return get me the king's riches." So cajoler called Adunola, a very skillful female warrior. "Go and get me the youngest child," cajoler ordered her. As days turned into weeks, Queen Ayeduni shouted as she labored in pain. The female maids stood behind her praying. Amidst them is Adunola, waiting for the perfect opportunity to grab the younger twin. And the moment came, as the midwife tied the beads to the wrist of the eldest twin child. He became restless, crying and rejecting the beads. So the midwife wanted to force it on him. The purple beads scattered on the ground, and the rope pierced through the delicate skin, causing an immediate bruise to his wrist. The baby shouted and cried in pain. The midwife, confused and in dilemma, quickly asked one of the maids to pick the purple beads on the ground. Adunola bent to pick the beads. Seeing that the midwife is distracted, she quickly picked the younger child and vanished into the thin air. The midwife, without looking back, stepped out of the room to announce the success of the delivery to the king, since she has stopped the bleeding from the eldest twin wrist, but she is sure it will leave a permanent scar. Unknown to her, the two men sent by the queen entered as she stepped out. Without seeing the purple bead on the hand of the child laying, they quickly picked the child and ran out of the place. And when the king and the midwife got back into the room was empty. Thief! The palace bell rang. We have got a thief in the palace. Words echoed until it got to the king's hearing. As the young man knelt before the king identified him, for he is the son of the old woman who had given the prophecy. Where is my son? But he was speechless, because nothing can prove his innocence at this moment, for he had stepped into the palace with the intention of stealing one of the twins, so that the king can release his mother, just as the king had said. As his silence fell on the king's anger grew, and he ordered an immediate execution of both him and his mother. So the king ordered that the palace girls should search every house, look round the village, and bring back his prince. But Adunola had gone far beyond the trees and the forest. Her leg quick as she raced back to deliver the younger twin to Kajola. On the other hand, the midwife too ran, hoping she would catch up with the two men, for they have got the wrong child. Though she had many questions running through her mind, but first she must catch up with the two men. Luckily, she found them. Where is the prince? We have killed him, as ordered by the queen, replied one of them. The midwife fell to the ground and wept bitterly. But this is a lie, for the two servants couldn't kill a royal blood, so they had laid the child in the forest. Peradventure, a wild animal would devour him. But they feared to say the truth, as they have gone against the order of the queen. Amidst all these confusions, with a heavy and sad heart, the midwife went back to the queen. The queen became shocked upon hearing the sad news, and due to her frail state at the moment, she instantly went mad. And that is how the king became the king with a mad queen and with no heir. The king became very bitter. He closed every friendly treaties with other neighboring villages and became very hard on the villagers. Thus, the once peaceful village became a tale of the past. Many years had passed, and as Atua, the stolen prince, grew up in the confine of Kajola and under rigorous training from Adunola, he became known as a formidable warrior, feared by all who crossed his path. His skill in combat earned him a reputation as a merciless warrior, and soon he rose to prominence. Kajola knew the time is now, for he sent him to the king's palace to get him the king's treasure. So Atua rose against the king's army, fought the soldiers, won, and took the king and Queen Ayeduni as prisoners. Atua sat on the throne while doing the bidding of Kajola, unknown to him that it is his father's throne. After threatening the king took him to his secret chamber where all his treasure laid. But before Atua could carry the treasure to Kajola, something strange happened. As a mysterious fire burned through the bushes in the forest, all the animals ran for their dear lives, and this made animals to become scarce in the village. A local hunter called Anyila, who lived all his life in the deep forest, will successfully bring meat to the palace. This always amazed Atua and Kajola, who feast on the delicious delicacy. So Kajola, impressed by Anyila's tenacity, seek to reward him. But as Anyila stood in front of Kajola, the resemblance was just beyond words, for he looked so much like Atua. So on this fateful day, Kajola sent the meat to Atua, for he had poisoned the meat, hoping Atua will eat it and die, and Anyila will be executed for the crime, and he can enjoy all the treasure. But Adunola saw through her master, for she followed Anyila quietly through the forest. When the meat got to Atua, Adunola stopped him from eating it. Surprisingly, Adunola's instincts were right, for the meat was poisoned. Atunwa's anger grew and he ordered the immediate execution of Anyila. But as Anyila stood before him, words of resemblance echoed round the palace. The midwife held Anyila's wrist and saw the cut. She feared to voice out, for she is scared that the prophecy is already fulfilled. For Atunwa indeed has turned his parents into prisoners and his twin brother serving him meat. That night, Adunola told him about his birth and the circumstances that surrounded it. Atunwa immediately ordered that Kajola and the great magician should be captured and punished for their crimes. But when the king heard, he became sad, for this is a shame. So he ended his life. Atunwa went to his mother, but she did not recognize him, for her insanity still persists. He apologized to Anyila, but Anyila refused to stay because he already loved the life in the deep forest. So he left, never to return again. Only Adunola remained beside Atunwa to guide and to nurture him into becoming a better king to the villagers. Indeed, the fear of prophecy coming to realization can influence actions taken by the individuals and in turn bring about the predicted outcome, as fear in itself is a bondage. The end.